So I am Kate Franklin and I'm co-founder of FranklinTill Studio. We are a London-based design and research studio, and we have been this year the lead curator for the Heimtextil Trend Forum.
I'm Titia. I'm the design editor of FranklinTill, and I've been on this project as a designer.
And my name is Anja. I am the runner of SPOTT, which is a Danish trend consultancy, and I'm also the lucky part of the trend table here at Heimtextil. So I've been part in the development, but not the curation and the finishing up here. That's been these lovely ladies.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe a couple of words about what the trend table is.
Sure.
How you collaborate.
Absolutely. So every year in March, 6 global agencies come together to share their ideas and visions of future living, lifestyle trends and colour trends. And together we define the key messages that should be presented the following year at Heimtextil. And then one agency takes on the lead role to then do focus research and to really develop the key messages, the statements, bring to life the trends in an experiential forum, and that process takes the best part of 9 months. So the trends are then brought to life in the form of the trend publication, a movie, which Titia is modelling, and a movie, a website, and finally this forum that we're here in today, to really try and make it an experiential event so that visitors can really get the most out of I guess understanding trends and innovation and how it's applicable to their business. And I think what's good about it here is there's lots of different parts for everybody, whether you're a buyer, someone in merchandising, product innovation. Hopefully there's something for everybody here. And then we repeat the process in March. So already the trend agencies are now already rethinking what we're going to be talking about and sharing in March to then define the new message and the new theme for 2019.
And you're not saying that this is all old news now, right?
No, this is not all news. Because we look at so many we look at the big picture always at Heimtextil. We never want it to just be about seasonal colour trends, because we don't believe in flash in the pan trends. It's not a sustainable way of thinking and making anymore. So we always like to look at the bigger picture. So it's really important that these big themes will evolve. And next year we'll be seeing how they're manifested into new directions, but ultimately there'll probably be some of the same messaging, just maybe showing more recent case studies, recent innovations. I might see some bigger themes coming through.
I definitely agree. It's just a matter of that we also have to kind of make it concrete within the textiles as well and see what is going to be developed within that. So no, of course the megatrends are per se a longer time span, and it's just a matter of forecasting them, saying how are they affecting and how are they dribbling down to the very concrete products. And in this case at Heimtextil is of course the textiles as a major category.
Okay. How much do previous versions of this exhibition inform the next one? How much are you building on, and then how much would you say, as you observe and you learn what the market is doing, do you shift from year to year?
I mean, I don't think we ever look back at what we've done and evolve it as per se. We are constantly looking at new information and then, I guess, considering what we might have shown the previous year and how that might link. But I don't think we won't take the content of this year's forum and then evolve it for next year. We will be coming together with fresh ideas and new themes, and then we'll see how then we take into consideration how we then deliver the information.
It's a little bit more indirectly, because of course the mega trends are there, so it's kind of, there are some hooks, there are some links that you come up to, but it is a new lead agency that has the responsibilities every year, so they also have their own methods and their own approach of how to do things, and that also brings in an important change. But of course all of us works within the kind of societal framework where the mega trends are influencing all of us.
And also it's really important for each year for there to be something fresh for the visitor as well. People come here to see something new, so it is really important to consider. Actually, they do need to. They want some new information. They want different colour palettes. They want to see how the colours have evolved, and potentially have some different stories. So we bear it in mind the previous years, but at the same time, we don't always necessarily kind of change it so dramatically. I guess there'll be similar themes and threads. Yeah, that makes sense.
And also different perspectives, which is the real good case with that is actually urbanization, as we're talking about, which I also see as a major and important global trend, and definitely for many markets. But if I have to convert it into Scandinavia, where I'm from, it has a different perspective, which is also what is important to underline, because we're not as urbanized as Europe is, as the UK is, as Germany, as North America or Asia. Not in terms of volume at least, but then in Scandinavia there is what we call a provincial urbanization, so we kind of center us towards larger small cities because we have a smaller population, and that brings in a different consequence of urbanization, because in the UK and in more high urbanized areas, of course, we live in smaller spaces. In Denmark and Norway per se, and also a little bit of Sweden, we still build bigger houses. We still have more square meters to live on. So we don't have the same burning platforms, but we do have the same trend, but it materializes and the consequences are a little bit different compared to what markets you're on. And for Danish companies where export is really crucial and important, they have to understand that urbanization is having consequences in other markets, and they have to align their products to that. But on the domestic side, they have to do maybe a little bit different and have a different approach. But the trend is the same, so it's important to see how the perspective is and what the markets are.
I think sometimes it is hard to understand how to apply some of the bigger macro trends into your business. But I think the way of seeing it is that actually it's more about anticipating consumer movements and anticipating what your customer will need, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead. And I guess depending on how fast you produce products or materials, then I think you need to really think far ahead for longevity.
There is a trend that we want to put data to everything, and I actually don't necessarily think that is a good approach for all kinds of businesses, particularly not within the creative industries, and not particularly ones using or really getting that consumer feel. So it's about a strategy saying, where is your starting point? Is your starting point in data and in numbers and in historic sales numbers, or is it actually in the consumer behavior, the ones who are actually bringing your business, the money into your business? So from my point, the way that I work is really about matching consumers with trends, saying, well, some trends are really good for some consumers and some aren't. Telling the company, saying, well, just leave those trends, you can't make money out of them, but go to this trend over here because this is where your business are, because you would have the equivalent consumers to it. So
yeah, and I think, and also to project forward, I think we need to look at what's happening on the periphery. You can't necessarily collate all that data because it's already there. That means that you're already behind. If all this data is already amassed, then you're behind. And I think it's about looking at the periphery, looking at what some really exciting designers are doing, because they're the new generation that are going to start changing and shifting things and getting, and thinking differently. So it is all about, I guess, looking at the anomalies, but then seeing how they often link and then forming, okay, so what is this big message that is coming from all these ideas that share something in common? There's definitely something that's bubbling up, and that's what we try and spot, is those anomalies and where they're potentially talking about a similar idea or a similar movement. And I think what's really important to do is to evidence, we call them case studies. So when we're talking about a macro trend, we put in case studies. So we'll show this is the project that actually really helps you to understand and define this movement. So this is this amazing retail space that's talking about how they're rethinking waste in a new way. This is a designer that's looking at designing a new material for waste, and this is a new automotive design when they are taking the waste and applying a different way. And there's this whole story about, and it's how those stories come together and how you then, I guess, articulate them and monitoring those patterns and telling stories, but showing it through evidence, not necessarily in data and statistics, but about through real things that are happening and interviewing real people, real designers, and getting their vision, because they're often the people that are speculating and thinking further ahead and having those projections about potentially what's going to be happening moving forwards. I don't think we create stories necessarily. I think we create the output in terms of how we tell them, but I think what we're actually doing is, I guess, effective reporting, but we're framing it. We're creating a framework for reporting, so we're not just, I guess we're pulling out the insight, and we're trying to delve a bit deeper into why this is interesting, what is it this new designer is doing, and what are they responding to, what messages are they trying to talk about, and so it's really about, I guess, how we communicate these stories.
When you pick up on multiple people doing similar things or in similar minds, then you see this movement, and I think then the framework creates the story around this movement.
And then the creative part comes from how we then deliver that, whether you're delivering that in an exhibition, a publication, a video, an event, workshops. That's the creative part, because I think
when you create the dots, I mean, when you gather the dots, you of course also are part of a creation.
Yes, and that's
trend. But the thing is, you have to have like more of the mass and commercial market taking things up for things to become really, really mainstream. If that's the case, if that is what is necessary, or if there is a potential for that. Otherwise, you will have different groups just going forward in their own little environment. But of course, there is a part of creation that we do because we gather the dots
and you
tell the story.
Visual outputs.
And I think the biggest question that we ask is the why. We're always looking for the why. Why is this interesting? Why is it important? And that's what we try to do, is understand the why and answer the why. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a big question that everyone needs to also
Or how do we make money from it?
Yes.
How do we call it? That's sustainability, right? If there's that cash flow, we can't keep doing what we're doing.
I think with colour, again, for us, we like to. I think the colours also there is a connection between lifestyle trends and the colour trends, because I guess as a trend agency that's always looking at the why and looking at the macro trends, I think the worst. This is the personal, as a company, we hate sweeping statements. Where someone just said, small flowers are going to be the next big thing. Why? Why are small flowers going to be the next big thing? And so for us, when we're talking about colour trends, again, we always need to ensure that they are looking at they're coming from the bigger picture, they're coming from these bigger trends. So for example, in the relax and recharge story that we have, which has ultimately resulted in a colour palette where we're looking at various tones of reds and blues. That's come from a well-being trend that we've been addressing in the future as urban. So how can we enhance our well-being in urban spaces? And one way is through colour therapy. So we've been looking about how colour can affect our emotions. And contrary to belief, is that red can actually calm and relax, and blue can stimulate. Many people think that it's blue that relaxes and red that
it's definitely been
stimulating. It is a myth. But actually research shows that, particularly when it's light, to do with light, so red light actually produces melatonin, which aids sleep, whereas blue light reduces the production of melatonin, so therefore you can't sleep. So we've been looking at, and so that's very much where the colour palettes are coming from. So if red is going to be used to relax you in your urban environments, then how do you apply that to your interiors? If blue is going to be used to stimulate, then how can you use that in your interiors? And so it's being able to link the colour palettes to some.
You've done the research, and then you kind of bring that together, and then you kind of see where do we have some agreements and stuff like that. But for my sake, definitely also you can link it to the time that where we are right now. I'm really seeing that we're going toward the colourful 20s, that we really are in kind of desperate need for more color in our lifestyle surroundings, both in fashion and in interior, and just in our general surroundings as per se, as we're also seeing here. And that is both part of how the time is right now. We're finally, after the crisis time, it kind of ended in 15, and then we spent 2 years kind of just finding our feet. Are we daring a little bit again? And we're finally seeing that the economic things are getting a little bit more upwards. And that also has usually a link to that we need to do more color, because color is very connected to courage. Apparently, that is how we're seeing color. Apparently, definitely in the Western, and specifically in the northern part. But then we've also had a decade, specifically in Scandinavia, where we've had less color, very neutral, very black and white, except very gray. Yes. And when you see that you've had that for a period of time, the natural reaction from the avant-garde dribbling down to the mainstream is to go to the opposites, and that is that movement that we're absolutely seeing, and that is what we definitely also wanted to bring into this area of textiles and in Heimtextil. I have two areas that I work with. I work with in terms of consumer behavior, the chains of trust, of who we trust according to that, how that affects our buying behavior, where we look for products, how we look for products, and that it's from going a little bit back to our instinct, our gut, our own believerism, because we don't have institutional trust anymore, or it's definitely being really, really challenged. Our politicians, specifically in the US, but also a little bit in the UK and everything where you are. And that has an effect on brand trust as well. I mean, we can't see through it, so the survival skill that we're applying as consumers is just going back to our own instinct, our own gut, our own believerism, our own little bubble, whether it's vegans or whether it's sports fanatics or it's textile and color nerds or whatever kind of bubble we go into, and then rely on that. So that is one of the things that I'm working with, and then the other thing is emotional transformation, that we're looking for getting into not just experiences and memories, but actually a transformation and a change. That is what we're seeking for. That is what our need is transformed into as part of the whole experience economy, where transformation is the fourth step. So that is where I feel that in the next decade we're going to allocate our money and our needs. That is where we're going to seek satisfaction. Getting new skills. That is why we're focusing on creation here as well.
Rise of the craftsman.
Definitely, yes, creation, and that is something.
Buying into craft products, they actually want to get involved in making. So a lot of craftspeople now are opening up their doors to their studios and inviting people in to come in and make with them. So it's all about this community engagement and
self-sufficiency
learning
and
Because products have become so accessible. I mean, they're just a click away, and it's one portal, Amazon, you have every product in the whole world. I mean,
where's the experience gone? Exactly.
There is nothing in there. There is
no effort in even going out to shop.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Just click and it shows
It
up.
doesn't give us that satisfaction. So of course, as humans, we're just going to transcend our needs for something else, and then that bubbling creation communities that we're seeing coming up.
And again, with the whole urbanisation trend and single living, and people living in smaller spaces, actually people are looking for these, bigger, larger community spaces where they can come together collectively and get involved and meet new people and almost be an extension of their living room, to have these community hubs where they can share and make and socialise. And I think for us that's really important, the experience of being involved in a community, whether it's through craft, whether it's through activity.
Living. And it's amazing to see how the new designers are just doing it as a total natural thing. It's just how they work. But for commercial, big lifestyle companies, it's a completely different focus and a completely mental change that they have to do, because they actually have to see the product as a side effect or a secondary thing towards the process is even more important. And that's difficult. That's a challenge.
How do you open your doors to let your consumers in to be part of that process? And
or
to
really
build.
put your business model into this mindset. But it's definitely going to be bigger, specifically in the western part of the world.
Again, with this link to urbanisation, I think people have started, the more time we live in cities and spend time at home, we're actually spending less time out with nature. So how do we bring nature in? And it's been proven that obviously as humans we have nature actually is good for our well-being. And there's been some research done by the American EPA, yes. There we go. That's the one. Environmental Protection Agency, that shows just having one plant within 1 metre of your desk can actually improve productivity by 15%. So there's actually statistics and data out there that are showing that plants are effectively beneficial for focus and on well-being. So I don't think this plant trend is going to go away, because the more time we spend indoors, the more
need to balance this, by bringing the greens inside.
How do you bring how do you green the city? And even architects are looking at vertical walls and creating these fantastic buildings which have got plants growing up them, and so really how do you bring nature back into the city, but I guess in a very controlled way. It's not about kind of this wild nature, it's this very manipulated, engineered nature. So
functional as well.
Yeah, but also it's improving well-being and productivity too.
It's for my sake, I definitely also think that it's an important trend, and it's here to stay. In Scandinavia, the driver behind it, the trend driver, has been a little bit different. It's been very aesthetically driven, because we still have the opportunity to go outside the doors and have the biggest woods and the biggest hills just right in the back of our backyard, so to speak. So that is where also that urbanized feel has a different point, because we can actually go out and have that, the freshest of air is still available to us. So it has a different drive within it, but I definitely feel that it has brought something in that we've been longing for, that we've been missing for some time, because we've stripped all our interiors for everything, even for textiles, even for surfaces, even for lively things. And that has brought something new into us. So it will be still a thing, but it has like a little different set of drivers in Scandinavia.
I think there's a lot to do with the millennials as well, and we often kind of call them the rurbans, so rural urbanites, and they have this, I guess, this real fascination with nature and growing plants and escapism, and kind of whilst they live in the city, they yearn for this rural lifestyle, and it's kind of these urban millennials that have kind of really embraced this kind of like horticultural, botanical kind of way of living, and they want to be I think that's kind of one of the big drives as well, this generation of millennials that have really embraced plants
We have to see what the alphas are doing about it.
I think new morals, and I think as a generation that's very, very aware of how much waste we have, and I think it's actually this. We've been looking at them. We're actually working on a new publication actually called Radical Matter, and it's about how these designers are becoming the agents of change. They're actually rethinking material resources, and actually can waste streams be the new material resources of the future? So if we were to put a stop on material production now, we could actually still make with all the waste that we have. So rethinking waste and how that is now the new raw material resource of the future. So in the remade materials library that we have at Heimtextil, we've actually kind of exhibited some of these designers that are rethinking waste, whether it's paper, textiles, wood, plastics, and how can you turn denim, how can you turn this waste into a new material? That should be the raw materials of the future.
There's certainly also a big part of just pure enlightenment. Once you've been enlightened and you've become aware, your psychology is really working against you. I mean, you can reverse enlightenment, that you know the impact that it has. So it can also see the behavior can also be part of, again, a survival skill of then I want to make this choice because it's easier for me, and then I feel good in a part. So definitely this big enlightenment that we've been seeing, and the transparency that's coming through in terms of what are we actually doing with the products and what kind of impact that we have, is part of this new generation, and something that they will be affected by, and their values then affected by it.
And they're doing something about it. I think that's why I feel so excited about designers, these new generation of designers. They're going to be the ones that are changing things. They're thinking differently. They're pushing boundaries. They're speculating. But they're completely challenging, production methods, manufacturing methods, material sourcing, and I think that's why they're so exciting. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's very immoral.
So it's something like 91% of plastic, 91% of plastic has been made since the 1960s, still in existence somewhere. Plastic doesn't go away. You can't throw away plastic. It just goes somewhere else. So that's got to be surely a resource for the future. How can you harvest that waste? What can you do with it?
And then having still beautifully designed products that doesn't necessarily look like they've been made from waste. They look very slick and sophisticated and beautifully marbled even, and they're made from denim. So that's very interesting, I think.
Maybe our garbage dumps are the future.
Well, they are.
We have to find a solution.
I mean, there's also plastic glomerates. Have you heard of the term plastic glomerates? It's a new stone that's been found in the beach in
somewhere in Asia.
There's a geologist and a photographer. They've actually been documenting this new stone that they've now called plastic glomerates, which is part of the Anthropocene era, but it's actually a stone that has formed, which is actually a combination of plastic and man-made waste with natural waste. So it's a brand new material that's being created. And this is the Anthropocene era. We're moving into the Anthropocene era where actually we're beginning to harvest and mine new materials because of the impact of man on the planet. So we're already starting to see new materials in the Earth's crust forming.
Good, I think.
I mean, but
I do think I do see that a lot of the designers are naturally working with it and also creating a revolution. But I also see that the need for legislation is there, and we also need to go that way because the mass market, the volumes in consumers, they are not going to take on that change, or it's at least going to take too long of a time. So I definitely see that there is a need, and I also see that through the UN Sustainable Growth Goals that we are seeing that it ripples down through the EU system in the part where we are, and rippling down to the national governments, and they're slowly taking approaches for more sustainable growth. Just getting the businesses to do it right for all of us.
Because we want it, but when you go into a supermarket, what is your choice? Everything's in a plastic bottle. When you want to buy a toothbrush, every toothbrush is plastic. And unless you have time to go and source a wooden or more responsible toothbrush.
Unfortunately, I don't have that big of a belief in volume mass markets. I know that a lot of consumers, a lot of the new generations are ready for it, but if you really look hardcore at the volume and the mass markets, they still go on the same habits and their same routines. And I think that
they don't have a choice there at the moment. There is no choice.
No, but if we can get also legislation to kind of make sure that the businesses are doing that, then we get that more obvious consumer choice that is
I think
better.
a small change, like for example, big chain brands like H&M now charging 10p for a plastic bag. It's really small, but at least they try to raise awareness amongst customers. And hopefully makes hopefully a difference.
You need to make it easy. You do need to make it easy for consumers to be more responsible, and that's got to come from brands. That's got to come from corporations. They need to give consumers that choice and make it easy and convenient.
And I think that begins a little bit with legislation and our government really taking on responsible choices.
There's a great campaign I've seen recently called I'm a plastic addict, but I'm ready for change. Because we are all plastic addicts, because we can't help it. We don't have any other choice. But come on, bring it on. Give us some alternatives.